Another incredible day of Test cricket on day two as India really began to take control of the first of the Test matches in the Border Gavaskar Trophy series. Had to wrap up Australia's tail to open the day. I went in pretty nervous for India, even though Australia were already 7 down for not a lot. Just there's so many times where you've seen Australia's tail wag before. In seemingly a dire predicament, someone will chime in with 30, someone will chime in with a 20, and all of a sudden they're back on level terms. And maybe Nathan Lyon comes in and slogs a few to put their noses in front. But credit to India, they got rid of the players that they really needed to get rid of. Alex Carey, I believe, was the first to go the morning after the first day of the test. And then they were just super miserly. Biggest resistance was obviously Mitchell Starc. I believe top scored for the Aussies with 26. Not only do I not have a computer in front of me, I actually don't have any electricity where I am at the moment. It's raining and there was a scheduled power outage and all that sort of stuff. But I was just wanted to go ahead with recording the episode anyway on my phone. Mitch Starc provided the most resistance, but there were so many opportunities for India to have wrapped it up for an even lesser total. There were just so many plays and misses and near misses of the stumps. They couldn't have bowled much better, really, India. They really couldn't. But Starc was patient, very solid defensively, and sort of maybe laid a bit of a blueprint as to how you could play the wicket. That's at least what I thought. And then once they finally got him out right before lunch, playing one of his few sort of, I would say, loose, aggressive stroke, and he gets caught. India came in and it was like a different wicket. For the next 2 sessions, they were imperious in their decision-making, their technique. It wasn't 2 sessions where they just flayed Australia around, but they just took command of the game. They took command of the pitch. They took command of the bowling. I think maybe 2 really keen chances come to mind where the Aussies, they had a dropped catch, and then shortly after it was a missed run out where they could have had, I can't remember if it was Jaiswal or Rahul running to the non-strikers end, and the throw to Nathan Lyon at the non-strikers it was just wide of the mark. If they'd got it to him, where he could have it over the stumps, then he probably would have been able to whisk the bails off, and it would have been a wicket. But there's only 2, maybe 3 chances that really come to mind. Apart from that, India were flawless in how they played Australia and in how toothless they made Australia's fast bowling look. I mean, Nathan Lyon probably looked the most dangerous as the spinner. But apart from that, they couldn't have played it any better. And I suppose if you were looking for crash and bash and lots of runs, then maybe you would have been disappointed. But the confidence with which they batted through to stumps, really sound, solid technique, and then allowing themselves to get a little bit more expansive, particularly Jaiswal, who hit, I can't remember if it was 1 or 2 sixes, but a few boundaries as well. He's going to come in today for day 3, ready to pass triple figures. And he just looks so exciting. I'll be honest, I haven't been able to watch a lot of Test cricket the last, say, couple of years. And so Jaiswal's, obviously a player who debuted in 2023, so he's not really been on my radar. And so this was my first opportunity to watch him, and what an exciting young player to be, age 22 and to come in and play with that sort of authority in that kind of spot. When Australia were really looking to counterpunch, they would have been disappointed with the total they got bowled out for. You think, Stark and Cummins and Hazelwood storming in, and he just looked unfazed. And I think they took the time to get set, which was a big thing. And that was something that I think Mitch Stark probably did really well when he batted. He wasn't in a hurry. And they, I think from my recollection, it was probably they each faced 30 or 40 balls before they really started playing anything too expansive or aggressive. They had the read and the measure of the pitch. And I suppose that's the advantage of having batted first on it, made your own mistakes, then bowled on it, learned what you learned from bowling on it, and seeing, what Australia did right or wrong. And so then, you get to learn from that and adjust when it comes down to your when it comes down to the third innings of the game and your second crack at it. So they were so good. They were just so good. And it's been a really engrossing test match so far to have all those wickets fall on day one, and then to have such a sort of captivating, staunch counterpunch from India on day two. I don't know, it just could have been a day where they lost wickets and threw something away, but instead they were as close to perfect as you could imagine, like in terms of playing the position they found themselves in. They just built into their innings, and then by the end of day two, really, they are in a position on day three to take this match totally away from Australia, which is pretty incredible when you think they end their first innings, bowled out for 150. And as I said yesterday in the old audio journal, so many times, that's it. The touring side has a horrific opening session or an opening day to a test, and then they capitulate, and that's it for the series. Totally the opposite. They counter-punched on day one, and then they really drove home the advantage on day two. I mean, it is 2 days now where you would say India have won days 1 and day 2. So, if they win day 3, if you're scoring a fight out of 5 rounds, and you say that India have won 3 of the 5, if they win today, they're going to be very, very hard to beat here in the first test. A couple of stray notes too. The innings from Pant and Reddy, 37 and 41 in the first innings. How important do those contributions look in hindsight? Yesterday I was saying, it would have been nice to see them get to, a half century for their milestone and maybe go on with their starts. But how crucial does that look now? Given that across both teams' first innings, it was 41, 37, and then Mitch Stark's 26 as the 3 highest scores. Those contributions look really, really important now, and the aggressive strokes that players like Pant was able to play, really important contributions. So it's just funny how the context of an innings can change in hindsight, where you go from saying like, they sort of threw a start away to maybe they just actually navigated a tricky day one of batting pretty well. And those, 78 runs that they combined for will turn out to be highly important. What was I going to say then? I mentioned Nathan Lyon had looked so, the most likely to take wickets, which is a credit to him. He just brings a great energy, I think, which is what you need from that spin bowler. I think after your pace battery kind of maybe struggles, to have him come in and really try and tempt the batsman, he just does bring a really great energy to how he bowls and how he attacks everything, even in the field, I think. He was good. That led me into talking about, though, they talked about, here comes Nathan Lyon, the GOAT. And I've heard this mentioned a few times about Nathan Lyon. And I'm assuming it's all about, the GOAT, the greatest of all time. And one, I mean, you sort of got to roll your eyes a bit, like, greatest of all time with and maybe I'm misunderstanding the nickname. Maybe it's nothing to do with that. Maybe it's to do with something else. I don't know. But normally when you say the GOAT, it's greatest of all time. So and I suppose this will be one of my ending thoughts for this audio diary. So instead of greatest of all time, GOAT, my submission to sports fans is to use the acronym GOTE, GOAT, greatest of their era instead. Okay? Greatest of their era is more interesting and a more sort of, it's an argument or a debate that we can actually have proper context and like quantify our positions a little bit better than greatest of all time. Because to me, what is the actual point of trying to compare Bradman to, say, Tendulkar, or Bradman to Steve Smith, or Larwood to Dale Steyn? Like, the game was different, the world was different, the conditions, the gear, the training. There's so much that was different between those eras. I mean, you're talking about like two players nearly 100 years apart, or the best part of. I don't like this greatest of all time argument thing. Let's do the greatest of their era. GOTE. Someone can be the GOAT. That's more interesting, because then you can have the debate between Shane Warne and Murali, or you can have the debate between, Tendulkar and Ponting, or you could have the debate now between like Smith and maybe like Kane Williamson and Joe Root and Virat Kohli or something like that. I just think that's more interesting. So that's my request for you, the sports fan, is to use GOAT, GOTE, greatest of their era, instead of GOAT, greatest of all time, because I think that's a more interesting debate personally. Fascinated to see what unfolds here on day 3. India could really have this done and dusted. They could bat themselves into a position where they can only win or draw by the end of this day 3. That's the sort of position they've manoeuvred themselves into. Is a position where they can take an Australian victory totally off the cards here with how they bat on day 3. So fascinated to see how they go. Jaiswal in reach of 100. Rahul, if he's there for another session, he'll be on 100 as well. So fascinated to see it. I'll be back with another one of these after day 3. And I hope you're enjoying the cricket. I'm enjoying some rain here where I am. It's lovely. All right, we'll speak again soon. How good's Test cricket?